This task supports students to develop early proportional reasoning. The materials are proportional to each other, and so are their representations. Students were able to work in units, for example, knowing that 2 squares represent 1 pony bead, so 6 squares would represent 3 pony beads. We saw a lot of students using their understanding of doubling and halving. So, for example, knowing that 16 squares represents 8 pony beads. Students could also reason using units of 6 squares to represent 1 pipe bead. So, they knew that 6 squares plus another 6 squares plus another 6 squares represented 3 pipe beads. They also explored the relationship of the materials and their representations. So, for example, 3 pony beads took up the same space as 1 pipe bead. Both are represented by 6 squares on the template. This focus on the relationship of different units is an early form of unitizing. Unitizing is fundamental and underpins multiplicative thinking. Unitizing is the ability to think of a unit simultaneously as one unit and as the number of elements that make up that unit. So a unit of 2 squares is 2 squares and 1 pony bead. And 8 units of 2 beads, or 16 squares, represent 8 pony beads. The same is true for pipes. A unit of 6 squares is 1 pipe, and 3 groups of 6 squares, or 18 squares, represent 3 pipe beads. Some students focused on creating repeating patterns and had to decide on how to create the pattern core, or a unit of repeat, and figure out how many times their pattern core could fully repeat in the 44 columns. They also had to keep track of the 2 spacers needed for the bracelet. Other students focused on patterning and symmetry. There were 2 approaches they took to creating symmetrical patterns. Some students created a design up to the 22nd column and then reflected it across the second group of 22 columns. Other students began at column 1 and column 44 and worked from the outside in. We also played around with some algebraic ideas, particularly the idea of balancing elements. For example, we'd ask students to think about trading 2 pipe beads for pony beads. How many pony beads would you get for 2 pipes? We also asked more open-ended questions, such as how many different groups of pipes, pony beads, and spacers would take up 20 squares in a row on your template. We worked for a few days on designing the bracelets, and then students chose their favorite design to create a bracelet. This is a great activity for grade 1 students because actually making the bracelets was fairly straightforward, and most students completed their bracelets in about half an hour. They were all extremely proud of their work and couldn't wait to race around the school to show them off.